Welcome back to another episode, everyone. Today, we're diving into something special, a book that's been sitting with me for weeks now, not because I couldn't finish it, but because I didn't want it to end. We're talking about The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb, the second installment in the Liveship Traders trilogy. And here's the thing that keeps rolling around in my head. What if a ship could remember everything, while the people sailing her were slowly forgetting who they were? That's not a throwaway question. It's the beating heart of this entire story, and it's the kind of question that doesn't just hook you, it haunts you. Days after turning the last page, you'll find yourself thinking about it while you're making coffee or stuck in traffic. This isn't your typical fantasy adventure with dragons and chosen ones saving the world. No, this is something different, something that gets under your skin. Welcome to Visual Fantasy Book Recommendations, the channel dedicated to fantasy and science fiction book summaries, reviews, and recommendations. It is very helpful if you hit the like, comment, subscribe, and share. Help build my channel, and let's take a look into the best fantasy and sci-fi realms out there. So here's what we're exploring today. Why does The Mad Ship feel so emotionally intense, even though it's not packed with explosive plot twists or non-stop action? What makes this middle book in a trilogy so powerful that readers can't shake it? Stick around, because by the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly why Robin Hobb's masterpiece hits differently than almost any other fantasy out there. Let me paint the picture for you without spoiling a single thing. The Mad Ship takes place in a world where certain ships, these incredible vessels called live ships, are carved from this magical wood called wizard wood. And here's where it gets fascinating. These ships come alive. They wake up. They think. They feel. They bond with the families who own them. Imagine pouring your heart out to a ship that actually listens, that actually knows you. The story picks up after Ship of Magic, and things are complicated, really complicated. There's this legendary live ship sailing under a new master now, and nobody's quite sure where her loyalties lie anymore. The Vestrit family, the folks at the center of everything, they're scattered to the winds, not just physically scattered across the ocean, but emotionally shattered. Some are dealing with loss, others with ambition that's eating them alive. There's guilt, there's hope, and there's this constant question of who gets to decide what happens next. Pirates, traders, former slaves, political players with their own agendas, they're all circling each other on the open sea. And underneath it all, there are these ancient forces stirring, forces that nobody fully understands yet. But here's what makes this different from your standard fantasy fare. Hobb doesn't rush from battle to battle or crisis to crisis. This story unfolds like a storm gathering on the horizon. You watch it building, feel the pressure changing, see the clouds rolling in. Relationships deepen slowly, authentically. Different ideologies clash. Characters get stripped down. No safety nets, no privilege to hide behind, no certainty about what's right or wrong. The sea itself becomes this massive character in the story. It's vast, indifferent, impossible to control. Kind of like life when you think about it. This isn't a book asking what happens next. It's asking something much more uncomfortable. What happens inside you when everything you believe gets tested? Let's talk about why Robin Hobb's characters will absolutely wreck you emotionally. She has this supernatural ability to write people who feel painfully, uncomfortably real. These aren't heroes on pedestals or villains twirling mustaches. These are just people, flawed, complicated people making choices that make sense to them, even when those choices lead to terrible consequences. You're following multiple perspectives throughout the book. There are family members fighting over inheritance and identity, trying to figure out who they are when the family legacy feels like a weight around their necks. There's a young boy caught between faith and survival, and watching his journey is both heartbreaking and enlightening. And then there's this pirate captain, charismatic, compelling, the kind of person who draws you in, but there's something darker lurking beneath that charm. Even the live ships themselves are fully realized characters. They're capable of loyalty and confusion. They experience trauma. They have desires. They're not just magical plot devices. They're beings struggling with their own existence. What makes Hobb's approach so powerful is that she never rushes the emotional development. Characters don't change because the plot demands it. They change slowly, often reluctantly, shaped by fear and grief and compromise. Power touches everyone in this story, whether they're wielding it or crushed beneath it. Here's the thing. You won't always like these characters. Some of them will frustrate you. Some will make you want to throw the book across the room, but you will understand them. You'll see the logic of their choices, even the terrible ones. And that understanding, that uncomfortable empathy, is what makes this story absolutely devastating in the best possible way. At its core, The Mad Ship is wrestling with a question we all face. Who gets to decide who you are? Is your identity something you inherit from your family? Is it something you choose for yourself? Or is it something that gets forced on you by circumstances you can't control? The book keeps circling back to this from every angle, through family expectations and the weight of legacy, through slavery and freedom and what both of those really mean, through command and obedience, through that eerie, intimate bond between ship and crew. And then there's freedom itself. Hobb doesn't treat freedom like this simple, always positive thing. She explores how freedom can be terrifying, how it can destabilize you, how it can even be destructive when you're not prepared for it, when you don't know who you are without your chains. Characters who gain power have to confront this uncomfortable question. Can you wield power without becoming the very thing you once feared or hated? The moral ambiguity runs deep here. Justice isn't clean. Revenge often dresses itself up as righteousness, and you have to look closely to see the difference. Survival demands compromise, and those compromises change you. The sea doesn't care if you're good, it only cares if you're strong enough to endure. Threading through everything is this profound sense of grief. Grief for lost innocence. Grief for family that's gone or changed beyond recognition. Grief for the certainty you once had about right and wrong. This is fantasy that understands something crucial. Emotional wounds don't just heal because the battle's over. They leave scars. They change how you move through the world. Let's talk about the writing itself, because Robin Hobb's prose is something special. It's quietly confident. She doesn't overwhelm you with flowery language or constant action. Instead, she builds this incredible atmosphere through detail, through interior monologue, through emotional resonance that feels absolutely real. Her pacing is deliberate. Some moments linger. Conversations carry enormous weight. Silences matter just as much as words. For readers who want nonstop action, this might feel slow. But for those willing to settle in, it creates an unparalleled sense of immersion. You don't just read The Mad Ship, you live inside it, tide by tide, hour by hour. Hobb excels at emotional realism. Pain doesn't vanish conveniently. Trauma leaves marks that don't fade. Trust takes time to build and seconds to destroy. And victories, when they finally come, are complicated rather than triumphant. Nothing is simple. Nothing is easy. The way she writes the live ships themselves is remarkable. There's this eerie tenderness to them. Their awareness is both wondrous and tragic, making them perfect symbols for memory, inheritance, burden, all those things we carry whether we want to or not. Very few fantasy authors manage to make non-human characters feel this emotionally authentic, this achingly real. Robin Hobb doesn't write fantasy to escape reality. She writes fantasy to examine reality more closely, more honestly. With The Mad Ship, her purpose seems crystal clear. She's exploring how systems of power work, family systems, trade systems, slavery, politics, how these systems shape individuals, and, this is the uncomfortable part, how individuals sometimes uphold those systems even while suffering within them. She's asking readers to sit with discomfort, to question easy answers, to recognize how survival can demand moral compromises that change you forever. This book doesn't lecture you. It doesn't tell you what to think. It invites reflection. It presents situations and asks, what would you do? And that's why it lingers long after you've finished. The Mad Ship is absolutely perfect for readers who love character-driven, epic fantasy. If you enjoy stories with moral complexity and emotional depth, stories that reward patience and careful attention, this is your book. If you want fantasy that explores trauma, identity, and power in meaningful ways, not as background decoration, but as the actual substance of the story, you need this. It's also ideal for anyone who enjoys rich world-building that doesn't feel like homework. Hobb weaves details naturally into the narrative. You learn about the world by living in it, not by reading exposition dumps. Now, full disclosure, this might not be the best fit if you're looking for fast-paced action or simple good versus evil storytelling. This is a book for readers who enjoy sitting with difficult emotions, who want to watch characters evolve in realistic, sometimes painful ways. It asks things of you as a reader, it demands attention and emotional investment, but if you're willing to give that, the rewards are extraordinary. So let's come back to our original question. Why does The Mad Ship feel so emotionally intense even without relying on constant spectacle and plot twists? Here's the answer. Because Robin Hobb understands that the most dangerous storms
aren't always on the horizon. They're inside people. The real battles aren't fought with swords. They're fought in the space between who you were and who you're becoming. She treats identity, freedom, and power not as abstract philosophical concepts, but as lived experiences with real, lasting consequences. And she trusts her readers. She trusts us to engage with complexity rather than comfort, to sit with ambiguity, to recognize that sometimes there are no right answers, only choices and their consequences.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.